As promised, we're going to be explaining for you all the details of the repercussions of this decision on students, on those who are looking to go to America as well. Joining us here on India Today is Karan Gupta, an educationist and visa counselor. So the apt voice perhaps to break down all the confusion right now over the announcement made by the Trump administration. Karan, interestingly, is also an alumnus of Harvard. So I'd be curious to know what you also have to say about all that's happening right now with Harvard. Good evening, first of all. Karan, thank you very much for your time.
Good evening, Akshita. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Karan, a couple of questions that have been doing the rounds from students, from those who are looking to go to America this year that we want to set the record straight on, get some of their queries answered. So we've listed those down in a series of questions. The first FAQ that I'd like to put out, which if you could answer would be great, is from many students who say we've applied for the visa. What happens now? Does the process get halted? Is it a press pause for now?
So the first thing what we've got to see is what we are witnessing. It's unprecedented, and this is not just a visa issue. It's a geopolitical signal. International education is now entangled with larger political narratives, and unfortunately, our students are caught in the middle. So to answer your question, if you've already applied for a US student visa and scheduled your interview, that appointment will be valid and you should proceed as planned, because the suspension only applies to new interview appointments. So your existing visa application is not halted, but what's disrupted is your timeline and possibly the predictability that students rely on.
Okay, let's bring up question number 2 then. If I get admission in a US college, what do I do? Many students have asked this, Karan, saying we haven't initiated the process for a visa, but we've gotten admission. So what do we do next?
If you've been admitted to a US university, your admission is still valid. But without a visa slot, your path is temporarily blocked. So my recommendation is stay in close touch with your university's international student office. Many universities are offering options like deferred admissions, ability to start classes online. This isn't a closed door, it's a longer hallway at the moment. I would say if you've got admission, wait for a couple of weeks, that you should get visa appointments.
Okay, so you think that this will kind of blow over in a few weeks? You think it's temporary?
I definitely think it's temporary, because if you look at the reasoning as to why this has been done, there's a very simple answer here. It's been done so that the visa officers can take some time to check the social media history of students that are applying. So the moment they get the systems in place, they get the right AI to detect what kind of social media presence students have, appointments would be available again.
Okay, let's bring up question number 3 also, Karan, which is, can I apply for a US visa now and wait it out? If they've got admission in a university, would you recommend that they still go through that process of filing their application, or just wait?
100% yes. If you do see a visa slot anywhere in the country, not just your city, it could be Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, Bangalore, it could be anywhere. Wherever you see an appointment, take it. Prepare, get your documentation in order, keep checking for what updates there are up there, and when the time comes, go for your interview. The thing is, you may not see interview slots available anymore.
So with no slots, then, I'm sure students will be in a frenzy, because they, I'm sure, are already checking non-stop on the website for any communication that comes through. But one of the questions that's constantly coming up, and I think most students have asked this, Karan, is about what really do they have as a backup plan. So let's bring up that question as well. Do I apply to universities in other countries as backup in case, nothing moves in America? Should they do that? Would you recommend that they apply to other universities and look at other countries?
Definitely. You have to diversify your risk. I advise students to consider universities in other countries like the UK, which is very much still open for admission, so many parts of Europe, Singapore. You still have so many different options. If you feel nervous, if you feel that the US is not going to work out for you, even now make fresh applications. You can go to another country and not put your career on hold. Hold on to the US offer, yes, but give yourself some flexibility and security at this time.
And I think in these unpredictable times, best not to put all your eggs in one basket, especially with someone like Trump. You never know what's really coming. There is obviously a timeline in admissions, etc., Karan, especially when it's overseas. So one of the questions also that we put up, question number 5 now, that we've pulled out from what students have been discussing on social media, will this halt lead to a one-year freeze on my admission? How does that work?
Not necessarily. Now, that is the worst case scenario that yes, it could lead to a 1-year freeze. It's not guaranteed. Universities are flexible. We saw that during COVID. And many of them are going to allow you to begin your program remotely. They'll get you to the US when the time is right, if it arrives to that. The key is to communicate with the university, understand what options they're offering. But in most cases, you're not going to waste this 1 year.
Okay, we certainly hope so. And you already said that it's temporary. So let's hope that all this gets ironed out. One point that you made, Karan, and this is something that students have been voicing too, about social media accounts being vetted, being checked. Students are asking, in what manner will that actually happen? How will my social media be vetted? What are the signs to watch out for? What should students kind of refrain from doing if they want to study in America now?
So, one thing is that the US has not been transparent with what is it that they're going to check on your social media or how they're going to check it. But we know that they're expanding the screening procedures. Students have to think of their social media presence as part of their visa application. These are not two separate things anymore. They have to review everything from posts, comments, and even likes, accounts they're following. If a student's digital footprint reflects support for groups that the US deems hostile or includes criticism of US policies, it could be flagged. I tell students, do a full audit of your social media. I'm not talking about what you did yesterday and 1 month before. It could be 3 years ago or 5 years ago. Your online presence is part of your application file.
That's scary, daunting almost, that what you've written maybe years ago will come back to bite you now. But I also want to understand, just a quick follow-up that I also had, Karan, on this, which is that is this kind of vetting new? Hasn't US always been known to do this?
Absolutely. See, the other day I had the same conversation with a parent where I said that a lot of the things that are making headlines today, all of this has been in US law for the last 5 to 10 years. It's just that they're now enforcing it. So even previously, applicants for all types of visas were asked for their social media handles. They were always scrutinized. Now it's coming into focus. Now even the smallest mistake that you make could cost you your visa.
Okay, I'll bring the focus back to our FAQs. The 7th question that we've pulled out from students is many of them are wondering if they have an existing student visa, is that also in danger now? Karan, what do you think?
All right. One thing to remember is that, yes, first, your visa is valid. It's legally valid. But that does not guarantee a smooth entry into the United States. We are seeing reports of students being questioned at ports of entry or facing direct visa revocations because they posted something online or they supported some group online after their visa was issued. So your visa is valid right now, but it's not something that's set in stone. It's always going to be looked upon in terms of your behavior and digital contact.
Okay, final question. Let's put that up on our screens. Students in Harvard or who've gotten admission in Harvard, are they going to face more scrutiny than others?
I hate to say this, Akshata, but yes. Harvard has been in the limelight. Harvard has been at war with the Trump administration. We know that they revoked their authority to enroll international students, which has been halted by the court. Harvard has been accused of campus activism and supporting anti-Semitism. So it is true that students who are going to study at Harvard should expect more scrutiny for everything that they've ever said, done, posted online. They should be more prepared than the normal student who's applying for visas.
Okay, so I think we've kind of answered all of the queries of students who I'm sure are very, very worried and concerned looking at the developments right now. We're done with those FAQs, but I also wanted to just ask you, Karan, as an alumnus of Harvard, looking at what's happening right now at Harvard University, is there a lot of concern, particularly among current Indian students in Harvard? Are they very unsure about what's going to happen next?
Absolutely, Akshata. There's concern, there's fear. Students at Harvard, students at Columbia, students at all top schools are worried. They're worried because they know that they've got temporary restraining orders, maybe the courts are in their favor, but you're living in an atmosphere of fear. You're living in an atmosphere of uncertainty. There's so much chaos right now in the minds of students and parents back home. And not just that, we're talking about people on OPT who are still being sponsored by Harvard. So there may be students who graduated 2 years earlier. They're still worried that what if their OPT gets cancelled? So we're talking about more than 20 to 30,000 students who are affected by this uncertainty that's going on in the US right now.
And I also want to understand, how does this impact America? We're all talking about, yes, students struggling, their fate being uncertain, their futures at stake right now. But this also dents America. Just look at the numbers on our screens. Of the total international students, 29.4% come from India in America. So I'm sure that dents American institutions too.
Absolutely. I mean, America is going to lose out big time. They're looking at billions and billions of revenue that comes in from international students. And this is just the first step. What happens to that high quality talent that eventually stays back in the US and contributes back to the economy? The CEOs of all your top global firms today are Indian origin. You're going to lose out on that talent. What the US is doing now, and if they continue on this path of making it harder for international students, qualified international students to get to the US, it's going to backfire in the long run.
Very true. And, many experts have opined that this is something that Trump is going to come to regret, perhaps. The fact that he's doing this unprecedented crackdown on international students, first Harvard, now overall on all international students. Yes, it's a temporary freeze, but one that not just punishes students, but also American institutions. Thanks very much, Karan. Always a pleasure to have you here with us on India Today. And thank you for indulging our viewers, answering all of those questions as well on what really happens to students going forward.
Thank you.